There are chambers in history never meant to be seen. Behind curtains of embroidered silk and lacquered doors, locked with ivory pins, women once whispered secrets that could crumble kingdoms. In the distant echoes of time, empires rose not only by the sword or scroll, but by the softest of voices, those spoken by concubines, priestesses, herbalists, and keepers of keys. Tonight, we drift gently through the halls of ancient pleasure palaces, temple sanctuaries, and perfumed death chambers, guided by forgotten hands, from the sun-soaked terraces of Persepolis to the moonlit courtyards of Chang'an, from the darkened vaults of Rome to the sacred groves of India. We will uncover how sacred intimacy, poison, betrayal, and ingenious locks shaped the silent battles of history. This is not a tale of war, but of whispered influence, not a chronicle of emperors, but of those who served beside them, lovers, spies, guardians of secrets. This is the story of the Forbidden Chamber. Close your eyes, breathe softly, and let us journey where history sleeps. Chapter 1. The Silk Chamber. Persia, 5th century BCEIN, the highlands of Persia, in the palace of Susa. A chamber sat within a chamber, encased in silk from distant lands. The Shah's harem was more than a place of pleasure, it was a fortress of political survival. Aratia, a concubine born of a Median priestess and Greek ambassador, was brought to the court at age 13. She was trained not only in music and language, but in the ancient art of listening. She was told, "The Shah has ears. You must be his eyes." The silk chamber held layers-draped veils hung between each section, so that a whisper could carry without ever revealing the speaker. This space was both sanctuary and surveillance. Behind each veil, Aratia learned the secrets of men twice her age. Persian harems, unlike those later in the Ottoman world, were strategic centers. The women here were not merely consorts. Many were born of noble blood, trained in philosophy, and Aratia understood how power tasted fragrant like rosewater and sharp like pomegranate rind. At night, after the last storyteller left and the golden oil lamps flickered low, Aratia would trace the carvings in her chamber wall, small glyphs left by women long before her. They read like a silent prayer. In this stillness, we remember. Chapter 2. The Temple of Pleasure. India, 1st century BCFR. To the east, in the city of Varanasi, the sacred temple of Kamakaya was guarded not by soldiers, but by devadeses, women pledged to the goddess through sacred sexuality. Mira was chosen at birth. Raised within temple walls, she was taught that the body was a temple, and pleasure a divine offering. To outsiders, the ritual seemed carnal, but within the temple, every act was choreographed with meaning. Mira performed dances under the moonlight, offering her movements as tribute. Wealthy nobles, scholars, and even kings traveled across kingdoms to learn from the devoteesses. They did not pay for flesh, they paid for the touch of divinity. Hidden beneath the temple were sandstone vaults carved with ancient instructions how to balance the chakras, how to use herbs to open the third eye, how to craft incense that blurred the line between trance and consciousness. Mira memorized every scroll, but she also watched the nobles, who came confessed things between breaths, plans of conquest, betrayal, marriages to be broken. Mira kept these secrets like offerings, sealed within her. Chapter 3. The Herb Keepers. Then Rome, 1st century CEIN, the slums of Rome, hidden between a baker's stall and a crumbling aqueduct, lived Livia, known to locals as the Angel of Smoke. Her home was a tangle of dried leaves, glass bottles, and dusty scrolls. Livia was a master of herbal knowledge passed down from Etruscan witches. Though unlicensed, senators' wives and gladiators came at night, cloaked and hurried, to seek her aid. She sold fertility potions, love elixirs, and remedies for pain, but in hidden drawers, she kept deadlier draughts, belladonna, henbane, and hemlock. Mixed carefully, they could numb, confuse, or kill without trace. She called her poisons quiet knives, One drop in a goblet, and a tyrant might sleep forever. Rome, at the height of its decadence, was full of power plays. Livia never left her neighborhood, yet she knew of deaths before they were announced. She read power not in togas, but in footsteps. A quick gait meant fear. A trembling hand meant guilt. She had one rule: never poison out of anger. Poison was for balance, and balance was everything. Chapter 4. The Chamber of Locks, China. Tang Dynasty, 7th century CEIN. The capital city of Chang'an, where the emperor's court glittered with scholars and silk-clad officials. There lived a girl named Ginli, orphaned during a border skirmish. She was taken in by a eunuch inventor named Wei. Wei was a locksmith of the forbidden archiver place, where ancient scrolls and treasures were sealed away. He trained Ginli to understand tension, friction, and balance. To her, locks were puzzles with personalities. Ginli's most prized creation was a dragon lock, 4 tumblers with separate codes, activated by warmth. It was meant to protect secrets of the Empress. She was summoned to install it in the Empress's private study, and there she saw something she would never forget. A painting of the Empress not in royal dress, but nude, kneeling in prayer before a mountain shrine. Around her were symbols of power, scrolls, coins, lotus flowers, and a black vial. Ginli knew that to guard this room was to protect the future. The dragon lock was not merely security, was loyalty. Sealed in iron. Stories began to intertwine. In Persia, Arasha overheard a conversation between 2 advisors behind the third veil. One whispered of a rebellion brewing near the western borders, led by a noble with ties to the Median priesthood, her own kin. Could she be used to spy upon her bloodline? In Varanasi, Mira was visited by a prince disguised as a traveler. During their sacred union, he confided in her. He planned to abolish the Devadasi system to gain favor with Puritan advisors. She was to be the last priestess. In Rome, Livia was asked to poison a rising senator and idealist who wanted to cleanse Rome's corruption. She refused. But days later, the senator was dead. Her own herbs were used. Her name whispered by Hyred, Mouse. Someone had copied her recipe. In Chang'an, Ginli found that the dragon lock had been tampered with. She placed ink dust within the mechanism. That night, she returned to find fingerprints smeared across the inside. Someone had entered the Empress's chamber, but no scrolls were missing. Only a small black vial was gone. All women felt the currents shift beneath them. The world outside raged in politics and war, but inside, in silence, history was being rewritten. ****, a secret stretched across empires of black. Vial of herbal extract known in whispers as the breath of Amara. Legend claimed it originated in ancient Sumer, passed hand to hand through temple women, poisoners, and alchemists. It granted not death, but obedience. A draft so precise it silenced memory, bent loyalty. Rulers sought it, but never held it for long. Now it was moving. Again Arashia heard from a visiting Babylonian envoy that the vial was smuggled out of Nineveh centuries ago. Her own mother had once mentioned it in myth. Now it was real. Meera found a scroll among the temple archives, half-burnt, written in an old dialect. It described a serum of obedience hidden within the final rites of Ishtar. She realized her training had always revolved around it. She had danced for kings while cloaked in its symbol. Livia traced the formula backwards. The poison that framed her was diluted, belladonna mixed with lotus resin. Not deadly but compliant, she realized. Someone was using her legacy to distribute it subtly across Rome's elite. Ginli, obsessed with the missing vial, snuck into the Empress's study during a storm. Behind a secret panel, she found a box of locks never opened. Inside were letters, one written in Greek, one in Sanskrit, one in Latin, and one in Persian, all warned of the same thing: when the vial leaves the chamber, empires fall in silence. Each woman made a choice: Arashia staged a false rebellion within the harem, creating rumors, planting lies so the real rebels could remain unseen. She delivered false information to the Shah, making herself appear the traitor. She was exiled, but her bloodline survived. Mira stole into the temple treasury during a full moon ritual, pouring the contents of the old incense jars into the sacred fire. Without the resin, the formula could not be recreated. She vanished into the Ganges. Reborn as a dancer in a foreign court, Livia crafted a counter-agenda, bitter elixir that erased the compliance. She sold it to brothels and noble kitchens alike, disguised as an aphrodisiac. Within months, Rome's sudden unity began to unravel. Jin Li rebuilt the dragon lock with a final feature, one that would shatter if opened incorrectly. She presented it to the Empress as a symbol of irreversible trust. The Empress cried not for the lock, but because Ginli never asked why the vial was taken. She simply protected it. Years passed. The women faded from their roles, but their influence endured. Lived in a coastal village, tending herbs and teaching young girls to read. She never mentioned the palace, but at night, she sang lullabies in the Median tongue. Mira, now called Aruna, taught dance to merchant daughters. They learned not only steps, but posture, grace, and confidence. She buried the old temple songs under jasmine roots. Livia, growing old beneath Roman cypress trees, watched the senators she once feared fall from grace. She smiled, sipping a simple herbal tea she made herself. Jinli became a myth in Chang'an, the girl who locked away empires. Her locks were studied by future inventors, but none could replicate the dragon's fire. Somewhere across the wind, the vial still moves. Perhaps you'll find its scent in old libraries, temple stones, or a story like this one. But tonight, you are safe. The silk curtains are drawn. The chamber is still. Sleep well, and remember, history listens, even in silence.